Continuing now with our lead story on President Obama's legislative accomplishments in the lame duck Congress. Some conservatives think the GOP didn't pick up enough policy wins after the November elections. Me. And did Obama get the better of the Republicans? Let's bring in Dick Morris, the purveyor of DickMorris.com, who joins us from Stamford, Connecticut. Now, Dick, am I wrong to be kind of a little bit depressed this Christmas season, given the Republicans' performance on the START treaty, on some of these other key issues, on the stimulus that was in the tax cut deal, right, and some of these other matters? Am I just, do I need to just pep up? Is it better than I think?
Well, I think that it showed some disturbing signs of Republicans selling out. Start with the basic fact that this was not, as he euphemistically described it, a post-election session. It wasn't even what we call a lame duck session. This was a session in which 20% of the congressmen and senators were defeated. They're not supposed to be there. They were repudiated by the voters. And yet they used the intervening last gasps of breath to jam through legislation that a Congress of elected officials would never have supported. Start with that. Then you go to the deal that they made on tax cuts. Now, within its foul lines, the deal was okay. I think you would have had to extend unemployment benefits anyway, and I obviously am happy the tax cuts happened. And the payroll tax cut, I'm always for a tax cut. But what is crucial to focus on is they didn't get any spending cuts in return. Had the Republicans simply said, no dice, this is an illegitimate lame duck session of people who are not entitled to vote because they were defeated, and we're not going to pass anything, and we're going to do it on January 2nd, and then we're going to demand spending cuts, which now will have to be fought for in the debt limit ceiling or in the new budget, and in the meantime, the deficit keeps clicking.
Right,
so
but
the Republicans
Dick, November
could have
2nd
easily
happened.
had Obama on January 2nd, but they
Dick,
gave
November
away the sword
2nd
3
happened.
weeks
Let me
earlier.
get in here. November 2nd happened. It was monumental in the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi was on the skids, liberalism was on the run, and suddenly Republicans somehow end up giving in on this tax deal that has all of these tax credit extensions for American Samoa and other initiatives for green energy and all that. None of that is what the voters voted for on November 2nd. Yeah. And a principled stand by Republicans would have, as you said, been defensible and also been winning. And forcing the president's hand, he would have had to go along with those spending cuts. I believe there's no way he wouldn't have gone along with that in the end.
He would have had to. And then you get to the START treaty. Now, there are 5 Republican senators who I hope bought themselves primary contests against real conservatives when the elections come around in 2012. First, Olympia Snowe, who's up in 12 from Maine. She deserves a primary. The second is Bob Corker of Tennessee. He deserves a primary. He voted for START because he's on the Foreign Relations Committee and is part of that club that sold out America. Thad Cochran from Mississippi voted for the START treaty. He deserves a primary. And so that those are the people who are up in 2012 who ought to get primaries. And let me put it in some very specific context for these folks. Iran is now selling Venezuela ballistic missiles. Those missiles are going to include the Shahab-3 missile and the newly developed Shahab-4, which are capable of sending electronic pulses over the southern part of the United States. Now, I would like to see Senator Cochran explain to the voters of Biloxi and of Jackson, and Corker explain to the voters of Memphis and Nashville why he voted to prohibit the United States from developing a missile shield against Venezuela. And by the way, let's also look at Johnny Isaacson in Georgia, who's not up until 16, and Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, who's not up until 14, who also voted wrong.
Yeah, the lesson here, though, is that the Tea Party and all the grassroots folks out there have got to keep the pressure on Republicans in this new year, right? Because I think they think no one's paying attention before Christmas or in the last 2 weeks before Christmas. All hell breaks loose, and we're like, wait a second, how the heck did the START treaty end up getting ratified? And what happened to this Republican opposition? Where are the principled conservatives? You got Jim and a few others.
And then
it just disappears.
And then you have two other conservative senators who really, 4 weeks after they got reelected, Mike Crapo of Idaho and Tom Coburn of Oklahoma, voted to approve the Bowles-Simpson Commission deficit reductions that include $1 trillion of tax increases, eliminating the deduction for mortgage interest or for charitable contributions, and a 50% increase in Social Security taxes. These guys claim to be conservative. They were reelected by the voters of Oklahoma and Idaho as conservatives, and they knew at the moment they were reelected that they were planning to endorse $1 trillion of tax increase.
Absolutely right. They think it's smooth sailing once they're elected, but suddenly Lindsey Graham...
On my website, dickmorris.com.
We got the website. Suddenly,
on my website, I have all the...
Lindsey Graham is the tough guy. Suddenly Graham is the tough guy.
I was about to say, if you let me, on my website, I have all of their contact information. Please be in touch with them and tell them you're going to remember.
Call a senator for Christmas. We're making our list and we're checking it twice. Dick, it's great to see you. Happy holidays. And directly ahead...